but I'm going to wait until I get the notification that it goes live, because that's usually.
Well, it says on mine that it's live right now.
Oh, we're live. Okay, this happens all the time. All right, well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to wherever you're watching from. My name is Jake Sussman, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm a dyslexia and ADHD influencer, an entrepreneur, and founder of Superpower Consulting, where we're a global mentorship organization that connects kids with their very own mentor anywhere in the world. So now, since quarantine started, I have been interviewing many different people, from parents to industry leaders to doctors to business leaders, and also people like, well, you and I. Now, we all have at least one thing in common. It's that we've either struggled or we have a form of learning and attention challenge, and we've overcome a lot of the adversities associated with that. Now, today, I have someone very special with me. Susie Van Der Vorst, excuse me. Now, Susie is going to talk about something very important here, because it's summer, and I love summer. Summer was my favorite time of the year because I always went to camp. And I've been seeing a lot of questions and conversations on Facebook about summer camp, about my kids having dyslexia. What do I say? Or what are there good camps for kids with dyslexia or ADHD? And how do I talk to the directors and all of this? So I thought it'd be really cool to invite Susie to join us, because Susie is the co-founder of a sleepaway camp for dyslexics. And we're going to have a really good conversation. Now, Susie here is a graduate of New England College with a BA in elementary education and has 30 years experience with teaching dyslexics from kindergarten through post-secondary. She was trained in Orton-Gillingham, in the Orton-Gillingham approach at the Kildonan School in New York, while working under the notable Orton-Gillingham Fellow and Academy founder, Diana King, may she rest in peace. She was trained by teachers in Orton-Gillingham and the approach, and has done incredible work in the space of dyslexia. Okay, so Susie is the founder of Camp Spring Creek, which is in North Carolina, which works with dyslexic kids ages 7 to 15 years old. And it's one of the only 3 residential camps in the country accredited by the Academy of Orton-Gillingham Practitioners and Educators. Woo! All right. Well, welcome, Susie. This is going to be fun.
It will be fun.
I'm excited for this. So, wow. Tell me a little bit about this camp. Let's just start with that. What do you do?
We have a lot of fun at camp. We build confidence, and we really have a lot of fun outside, but we're also doing a lot of remediation. Okay. And the kids love coming because they're being taught the way they learn, but they're also getting to do things like wood shop and swimming and yoga and paintball and camping and whitewater rafting and bicycle riding. So there's a lot of fun to be had and a lot of learning to be done.
Right. I mean, I think it's so great, because I'm a huge advocate for camp. And for the parents that are tuning in with us, let me know where you're watching from. And not only that, but if you have questions for Susie, look, I know a lot of we're thinking about the summer and what do we do with our kids throughout the summer? And how can we have a successful summer? So this is an amazing opportunity to ask and to get in a conversation about this. So I think it's so amazing that what you're doing at Camp Spring Creek, because you're not only providing an interactive way that makes learning fun, but it's very stimulating for these kids, right? It's like an outdoor classroom.
It's like an outdoor classroom and an indoor classroom. Everything's learning. We have a great time. We're educating their palates. They're learning how to do their laundry. They're learning how to write in cursive. They're writing letters every week. There's a before and after writing sample, which parents are always amazed at the difference in their handwriting and the content of what they're writing. So we have a blast.
Right. So what's it like running a camp with kids with learning attention challenges? Because I know the summertime could be hard. Look, these kids are away from their parents, and how do you create a summer of where these kids are engaged, but they also like I know impulsivity comes a lot with kids learning attention challenges. So how do you run this successful camp?
Well, their camp day is fully structured. They're doing something fun every moment of camp. They only really have about 15 minutes of free time during the day where they get their mail, but their whole day is scheduled and they're having fun the entire time. We start off the morning with breakfast, and then we go into reading hour. And then there's a 5-period system where a 5-period day where they have tutoring, or they have wood shop, or they have swimming, art, typing. And then after those 5 classes are over, they have outdoors where they're doing something outdoorsy, whether it's lifeguarding, playing paintball, going on a hike, some sort of outdoor activity. And then they have an hour of study hall. Then there's a 15-minute break. Then we have dinner. Then we do group activities in the evening. And then there's personal cabin time, and then bedtime. And then on the weekends, we're camping, we're spelunking, we're doing a bicycle tour. We're constantly keeping them kinesthetically engaged.
You know, I think that's really important, because when there's no structure, it's hard for these kids. How can parents build structure in a structureless environment like the summer?
Well, it's hard because so many of our parents are working. So really having sort of an outline of what they're supposed to do every day. Some kids aren't ready for sleepaway camp. Other kids are ready. So I think it's important for kids. They grow so much when they're away from their parents, when they're being expected to do things that everybody else is doing, whether it's making their bed or folding their laundry, doing their laundry. There's so many things that are confidence boosting that they can do when they're not around their parents. We do a lot more counseling of kid sick parents than we do of homesick kids.
Right. I remember when I was in camp, I was the least liked kid in camp when I was in camp for many years. I started going to camp, I think, when I was in 3rd grade, and I went to camp for like 8 total years. I had a really bad experience at one camp, and then I went to another camp called Camp Scatico for 7 years, 7 summers. And I remember for social cues was hard. I would try to do things that, you know, how do I engage with my bunkmates? You know, whenever I would think something was funny, it wasn't. Whenever they would think something was funny, I would think it was serious. So that was really scary. And I'm sure a lot of parents are concerned about how their kids are going to fit in. So what could be some tips for parents while we're looking at the summer and looking at all these opportunities of sending our kids to camp and all that? What are some things that they could be looking for in a camp, or how they can talk to the director of the camp? What are some tips?
Well, I guess one thing is there's no stupid question. Every child is different. We do a lot of what we call social autopsies. So if there's something socially going on, we try and explain to the child what is inappropriate about their reaction and try for them to see it from the other side. We are very empathetic, and the counselors really help them see that. We have a policy that we always have 2 sets of eyes on, so that you always have an objective person who can say what's going on. But one of the things that's really nice is our camp is solely only for children with dyslexia and ADHD. So we really train our staff on the social implications of dyslexia and ADHD, which really helps them. And they're always, all the counselors are constantly engaged with the kids. They're not just watching from the sidelines. So I really think that by being participatory themselves, that really helps. And the more parents can be participatory with their kids in the summer, if they can't send them off to camp, then, you know, that's going to be great as well. Or have a mentor like Superpower Consulting.
Yeah, I mean, I creating structure is tough. Creating structure is really tough. And camps, it's important for that. I think kids really learn structure at camp. Like, what have you seen in your years running Camp Spring Creek, which, for those of you that are just joining us, is one of three residential camps in the country that specialize and are accredited in Orton-Gillingham. You're not just a sports camp. You do sports, but there's a purpose, and that's what?
Well, the purpose is really for me, it's to build confidence. And in building confidence, you usually raise their skills as well. So generally the kids that come to camp are making 1 to 2 years gains in their reading, writing, and spelling. In one summer. And parents say to us all the time, we sent you one child and you sent back a completely different child. They get their homework done now. They have better study skills. So we really try to break down their assignments into small, sizable chunks so it's something they can get done. We get kids to advocate for themselves. Many of our campers leave camp and then they go to their IEP meetings and they actually run them and tell the administrators and the teachers what they need to be in place for them to have a successful year. And generally, adults listen more when the child will tell them what they really need. And that's the strongest thing that we can do for children, is to teach them how to advocate for themselves.
Right. And I think, oh yeah, no, that's good. So I went to a boarding school.
I did too.
Oh yeah.
I got kicked out of one.
Oh, okay. Okay. I almost did also. I didn't though. But when we send our kids away, what's your philosophy around sending your child away to a place for a long period of time?
Well, I think, the thing about summer camp is if a child had some medical need that they had to be in the hospital for 6 weeks, parents wouldn't hesitate. But because dyslexia is a hidden disability, or ADHD is a hidden disability, often they think, oh, that's too long, I can't be away from them. But I often have our prospective parents talk to seasoned parents so that they can be rest assured, because generally it's the parents that are nervous about not having the children around. It's more of a control thing than it is about the kids being scared to go off. Now, I'm not saying that kids don't get homesick. Of course they get homesick. That's a natural occurrence. But after a couple of days, when they realize they're in a safe place and they've made friends, it's so empowering and so confidence boosting for them to overcome their feeling of homesickness. Right. And after that first the kids get to call home every week. And by the second week, when they call home, generally they're bubbling with all the things they've done. And that in itself helps to appease the parents' nervousness.
Right, right. It's overcoming the obstacle. And it's like every year I went to camp. Every year I would always come back a better person. Every time. And
we have a unique camp. We don't really want you to have to come back year after year. It's bittersweet when I have to call a parent and say, you know what, your child doesn't need camp anymore. They need to go to a fun recreational camp, but they're done with their remediation. So that's always a powerful thing. We really want to help in 2 to 3 summers and then have them go on. But we do have some kids that we have to counsel out of camp because they want to continue to come. Last year, all our counselors were actually returning campers, which was all our male counselors were returning campers.
Do a lot of your campers become counselors?
Not always. We generally like to have international counselors, but during COVID last year and this year, it's much harder to get our international counselors to America.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And that's where I'm excited to have this collaboration, because for those of you who may not know, with Susie running an amazing camp for dyslexics, and my organization, we provide mentors for dyslexics and kids with learning attention challenges. We're looking for mentors. So what we're talking about is this amazing opportunity to find great minds, young professionals, to not only work with just kids. Kids need someone they can relate to. They need a camp counselor all the time. Everyone wants to be with the coolest camp counselor at camp. I think we all do, even adults. What makes Why do you think that's the case? Like, what makes someone a great camp counselor, and what are ways that we can learn from that counselor?
Well, I think counselors have the energy and the spunk, and they're just the cool, hip people that the kids want to look up to. And they have boundless, endless motivation and energy to help our kids have a great time.
Right.
And they do. They become very personable people that our kids reach out to all year long. My daughter is helping to take over camp, and one of the things she brought in this year was we have, every 6 weeks or so, we have a Zoom meeting with all our campers. And sometimes the counselors get on there too. And the kids get so excited when they see their past counselors or tutors.
Yeah. Oh, it's the best. Yeah, I always remember it's a family.
It is a family.
And that's what our kids need. We're trying so hard to fix their problems. I think all year, we just get pushed around by our learning differences, by not just our learning differences, by people that don't understand us. And now you can spend a summer in an oasis to like, it's like your superpower training camp. You find your superpowers and you get a chance to work with them at camp and go paintballing and whitewater rafting. Come on, like if my parents are watching this, I gotta say, like, this camp is awesome. This camp's great.
Well, and I would say none of our kids need to be fixed. I don't think any of them are broken.
I love that.
I think that we just have to teach them what their passions are, what their interests are, and really feed them the fuel to fight for their passion and their interests, while also giving them the skills to become proficient readers, writers, and spellers.
Oh, it's great. And by the way, I was going at this with the boarding school reference. At boarding school, you have class on Saturdays. And everyone's like, oh, that's awful. Why would you do that? Our kids need more time for themselves. I say the opposite. Imagine the model where you have, and I have a point of why this relates to camp and how Camp Spring Creek is genius, okay? Because the boarding school model, which I think all schools should adopt this model, is you have block schedule, 4 classes a day for 75 minutes. It gives you time to adjust. It gives you time to get into class, get in a rhythm. 4 classes is manageable instead of 8. Then on Wednesdays is a half day. Saturdays is a half day. It breaks up the week. It doesn't break up the week. It keeps it consistent. Okay, so instead of it being, imagine a kid with learning attention challenge who goes to school on a Monday after a 2.5 day weekend, because Friday, it's like whatever, you're barely focusing at the half of Friday, right? So it's a 2.5 day weekend. And then you get into the week. It takes you until Wednesday to finally get in a routine. And all of a sudden, the week's over. You never actually get in a routine. So what that half day on Saturday is, it keeps it going. Now, what camp is brilliant is that summer is like the long weekend. Right? You're in school all year, and all of a sudden you're off from June until the end of August. That is an absurd amount of time to have off from learning, because it's a muscle. If you don't work the muscle, it's going to take time to adjust back into school. So what you're doing with the kids at Camp Spring Creek is happening. What you're providing for them is a way to not only have an immersive experience, a summer fun experience of adventure, but it keeps their brain muscle on throughout the year, which I think is genius. Have you noticed a difference in this? Is there research done on this? I mean,
I don't know that there's research, but we've had anecdotals where even kids who go to specialized school like the Southport School, where they're having to focus on all their subjects during the year, at camp, they're only working on their language, their reading, writing, and spelling. So they are often making more progress in 6 weeks than they make it at an entire school year, because we're only focusing on their reading, writing, and spelling, and then having fun. And it's been proven, research shows that you learn more when you're having fun and when you have time to have breaks and play and allow that information to process in your head.
It's only how it should be, honestly.
Right.
It's how it should be, but unfortunately, somewhere along the mainstream way, it's really gone the other way.
Yeah.
Gosh, imagine if Camp Spring Creek year round. I'm in. Sign
Yeah,
me up.
well, a lot of parents
Sign
want
me
that,
up.
but there are lots of other places they can go year round. I'm not going to start a school.
Yeah. Southport School.
Yes, they can go to Southport.
Towers.
Summer.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So what was it like working with Diana King? And could you please tell our audience who Diana King was? Because Diana King is a legend. Okay.
Diana King is a legend. She is a force to be reckoned with, but she had the hugest heart of anybody I know. And she wanted to make sure that in her small way, she left this world a better place than when she found it. And she did that by training thousands of teachers and working with thousands of students in her 68 years of teaching children with dyslexia.
Wow.
Yeah, she was a pretty amazing woman, pretty formidable. And she was a straight shooter, very direct, and didn't always, think about whether or not she was hurting your feelings, but she was being direct, and really her biggest priority was the kids that she served.
Yeah, I only wish I only know her through just my advisors that know her, and she just, I think she really set a tone for what for the movement today of education and special education and where education is headed. We had a few questions. Is this available, AKA your camp, to kids who don't have the means to pay, or is this a camp run nonprofit?
Well, it is a nonprofit, and we do try to raise money for scholarships. But what we do is we try to give out as much financial need as each family needs. But usually the family has to have some financial input. We don't generally give out a full scholarship,
Right.
Because we're trying to help as many kids as possible get to camp. We also do virtual tutoring, but if you're accepted and you need financial assistance, we send you through FACTS, and they do the assessment of whether or not what kind of financial assistance.
What is it called?
It's called FACTS, FACTS. It's what many boarding schools use as well for financial assistance.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. Nice. So why did you start a camp?
Well, my father was dyslexic, and my father died at age 79, and he still had very poor self-esteem and a lack of self-confidence. Even though he gave Sam Walton his first loan in the state of Connecticut, he was somebody who was beaten up pretty badly by the system. And so my biggest thing is I don't want to have children that aren't confident. Even if they make a mistake, I want them to do it with confidence. I want them to advocate for themselves. I've always said if I had to be, on an island off by myself, what one person would I take? It would be one of any of my dyslexic campers that I've ever met, because dyslexics are fun, they're innovative, they think of new ways to do things. And so I just think the best part of my year is actually the 6 weeks in the summer when I'm just playing with kids and enjoying the summer camp.
Right. I always say our world needs work as a society. A lot of problems out there. I feel like there's always problems out there, but the only way true change is going to come is by those who look at the world differently. And that's our dyslexics. That's our kids with ADHD. That's our kids with ASD. Those are our neurodiverse kids who literally think differently. But unfortunately, they're made to feel other than. They're made to feel that they can't. It's frustrating. Okay, so you started this camp. Your father was dyslexic.
And 2 of my children are dyslexic.
It is genetic, right? It is passed through. So for our parents watching, we have a lot of parents who are watching us right now. You're a mother of 2 dyslexics. You run a camp. You're like the camp mom, right? You have all these kids who are dyslexic. What have you learned as mom and as like as director of Camp for Kids, that are some parenting techniques and tips for our parents watching?
Well, I'll tell you, back before I had kids, somebody told me a long time ago that raising children is like holding sand in your hand. And if you hold it too tight, it all falls out the edge. And if it's wide open, it falls off the edge. So you really need a cup. Okay. The only difference is I think that when our kids become older and more adolescent, the cup needs to be bigger. So we need to give them room, and they have to have boundaries. And that's that structure again. Our kids are looking for the structure and the boundaries, and they're going to keep pushing until they find it. So we give them really firm boundaries and consequences and accountability, and they learn that they thrive when they're given a structured environment.
Yeah, structure. I mean, I agree. I don't do well when there's no structure. I mean, it's hard. It's very challenging, and I think we put a lot of expectation on our kids to find that structure
themselves, and they can't do it. They need to be given explicit and direct instruction.
And I don't think this is a learning disability. I think this is in general. People don't do well when there's no structure, unless you're a free roamer. but even then, that is a form of structure. You have your routine. Everyone's got a routine. Well, I mean, the routine doesn't have to be a healthy routine. It can be an unhealthy. That's very interesting. So I like that, creating structure. And parents watching this, what do you think about that? Have you struggled to create structure? I know for me, every break I would have, I would always shut down when there was no structure. So for our parents that are looking for camps, I know that it's getting a little bit late now because it is that time, a lot of camps are filling up. And if you're still on the fence of where to send your kids, what are some questions our parents can ask the directors of their camps, or to create this team for their kids with learning differences to have a successful summer?
Well, I think everybody comes from a different place. So I've always said to parents, there is no wrong question. Ask whatever questions you need to ask. But it is late. I think, I know we're full. Durango Mountain Camp is full. I think Dunnebeck might have a few open spots, but I would say start your quest early. We're unfortunately having to tell people now that start in September. We were full about 2 months ago. We were only one of like a handful of camps that were able to open last year during COVID. It was the first year in our 18 years that we didn't have one fever. And because of that, instead of having our normal 40 to 50% return, we now have about 65 to 70% of our campers were returning. So that doesn't leave many spots for new campers. So I would tell parents, don't wait until the spring, because they're not going to be as many openings. So start early, start in the fall or the winter to ensure that your child has a spot in summer camp.
Right. Now, I guess it's too late for some parents now, right?
It is, but there's virtual tutoring. There are day camps. Many of our schools, like Southport School, Camperdown in South Carolina, the Key School in Asheville, Triad in Winston-Salem, they all have day programs for kids in the summer. So, and if they've never been away to camp and parents are nervous about that, I often tell the parents to send them to a recreational camp for a week or 2 weeks so that everybody gets a taste of it. And if it's too late for that, at least have them go spend a week with a friend or with a grandparent so that they have that experience of being away from home for some time before
being away. And look, since last March, our mentoring program has worked with over 85 kids from around the world, from 7 different countries, okay? And that's given us some really unique insight on behaviors in the home, especially during quarantine. And Mary just mentioned here that she agreed that she's struggling with establishing structure during remote school for her teenager. So something that we've noticed is that the behaviors of our kids at home versus when they're out of the home are significantly different. it's very hard to grow when you're at home. Okay. My mom, for example, okay, this is a really funny story. My mom told me to make a list for myself every single year during high school. Every time, Jake, make a list. Jake, make a list. Jake, make a list. It didn't take me until freshman year of college when I saw my roommate making a list that I had this huge epiphany. And on top of that, if I go home and I forget to do the dishes, my reaction to forgetting to do the dishes is going to be different than if a friend of mine says, Jake, do you want to do the dishes? Well, if a friend says that, I'm more likely to say, yeah, sure, no problem. If parent says that, I'm more likely to have a reaction, right? And I think it's like that with adults and kids. So to keep that in mind, setting our kids away for just a little bit, maybe for small weekends, sleepovers like that, I think that's a great piece of advice.
Yeah. So I think, our kids need to grow, and it's not always going to happen while they're being watched by their parents. As much as I'm a parent, I have 3 kids. I like to watch when they're doing things and having fun, but sometimes listening to them and their excitement when they've learned how to do something when their parents aren't watching is just as rewarding. Yeah. That's one of our camp dogs. Sorry about that.
Oh, I want to see. Where's your dog?
Well, we have a golden retriever and a chocolate lab.
Oh, I have a yellow lab and a black lab.
Yeah. Lulu. Lulu? It's Lulu and Mimi. So
Lulu and Mimi. I become famous on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Okay. So, wow, that's so cool. I just think really, like, first of all, thank you for joining, but also thank you for what you do.
Well, and I'm excited that you're going to come down and talk to our campers this summer.
I am? What?
Yeah, that's going to be so much fun.
Oh, you hear that? Camp Spring Creek is going to be, I'm excited to play with, like, do some sports with the kids, like, play some paintball, whatever. We'll like have some fun,
Yeah.
But I miss camp so much. So yeah, camp, sending your kids away for a little bit. I know they're your babies. They're always going to be your babies, but sometimes they have to leave the nest. And sometimes if they fall and get a scrape, that's learning. That's learning. And they're going to have their peers around them to help lift them up. And that's okay, because it's going to preserve your relationship as mom or as dad or as whatever role you are in this child's life. That's going to preserve the relationship. Really, 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 really. And have you seen that too, Susie?
Well, we have seen that, and kids are so excited. And I think that as a camp director, we're probably more conservative than I was with my own children, but we might be more liberal than some parents. So really having that, it's all about finding balance of putting them in situations where they can have healthy risk taking, but that they're not putting themselves in danger. So falling and scraping your knee is one thing, doing death-defying acts.
You don't like that.
Your own time.
Let's put it out there right now. Not an advocate for dangerous things.
Right, but they do need experience with some healthy risk taking.
Yeah, that to me, by the way, as I like, look, I've had accommodations. I've gotten the accommodations for how I learn. I've gotten the extra time. I've went to I was very fortunate to be able to go to a school that had specialized support for students with learning differences. I found myself relying on the safety net, more than wanting to go out there on the limb. So I think to find the equilibrium and to know there's a safety net, but also want to go out there on the limb. And eventually I was like, I got to get out there. Life's not about that. Life's not, in the workplace, if you can't ask for extension, you'll get fired. So, now there's laws and the ADA is getting into the workplace. Great, but still, you got deadline's a deadline. So how we can learn to coexist in the neurotypical world is something that I'm a huge advocate for. And that's why I'm like, if our kids go out of their comfort zone, if they're saying they don't want to go to camp because they're scared, is different than actually saying I don't want to go to camp because of X, Y, and Z. There's the emotional part of the fear. Fear-based decision making is a lot of times our kids drive these decisions of I don't want to do that. I'm not doing that. But where is it coming from? You know?
Well, they're afraid of the unknown.
Right.
And I think parents' job is to say, you know what, I've done my research. I think this is going to be the best thing for you. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but everything in life that's worth working for, you have some struggles along the way.
Right.
And the more that you can overcome those hurdles, the stronger you're going to be. And so I think parents need to make that decision for their kids and not put that kind of responsibility on a child.
Yeah. Ooh. So what kind of wisdom have you, I just, look, you have an amazing opportunity here because you've worked with, how many kids have you worked with, do you think, since you started this camp?
Oh, thousands, probably.
Thousands of kids. Okay. You've seen interactions, you've seen growth, you've seen the lows and the highs of a child's journey through independence away from the home. And a lot of parents, I think, are scared of what happens of the unknown because they need so much support in school. So I just want to continue to emphasize and dig a little bit to what you found in the years of thousands of kids you've worked with, and how we can comfort our parents to say it's okay. It's okay if they go out. It's not like it's okay if you send them maybe to a camp or to that week-long program or the weekend, and they may kick and scream at first, but it's gonna happen. Once they get over the hump, they're gonna realize, wow, like this is amazing. Or maybe they won't like it, and we'll regroup when we get there.
Right, exactly. And there's a lot of that. So, you know, we have more kids that think fondly of camp, and they consider camp their summer family, and they can't wait to come back, even after they no longer need camp, just to visit and see old friends and see how the place has changed. So I think it's really important for us to give our kids opportunities to grow. And sometimes growing isn't always flawless without some bumps in the road. But I think those bumps allow us to grow and become even stronger.
Right. Now, and I want to just pose this question to the parents. What's your summer like with your kids? What's your experience like having your kids at home? I mean, I guess during a pandemic, it's really been like this all year, but what's your experience like, and how do you consider sending your kids away to camp? What has that been like with your kids with learning differences? I'm curious, please share. There's so much power with sharing because most likely what you're sharing is someone else's current experience. So this is all about community, okay? Now, while our audience is either writing some questions or whatnot, what do you think, what is your superpower? What is your superpower? If you were to have a superpower, what do you think it is? Or I think you maybe do have one. Now, I'm not talking about necessarily shooting lasers out of your eyes. I mean, if that's what yours is, that's amazing. But what is your superpower?
Are you talking to me or to the parents?
You.
I would say, I think my superpower is connecting with children and connecting with those who want to teach children.
Tell me more. That's awesome.
So I was really fortunate to be trained at the Kildonan School. Originally, her name was Sandra Pollock, who was my first trainer. And then Diana always filled in any gaps of any knowledge I didn't know. Lori Cuddy was also one of my trainers. But Diana had such high regard that you were kind of scared to go and get advice from her. So I went to her my very first year of teaching, and I said, Diana, I would like to be as good as you someday. So I'd like you to come and observe me, but I'd rather you, not rip me to shreds and give me some good positive feedback as to what I can do to improve. And that kind of changed my game with Diana. And she was amazing. She would come to camp every year when she was alive, the last couple of years of her life. And she would just tutor kids for the tutors to watch. And there's so much that you can learn from just someone demonstrating what to do. And I remember when I was young, I went to her and just watched how she taught handwriting. And it was amazing. She was so diagnostic and prescriptive that you could just pick it up so quickly. And luckily, I, became friends and colleagues with her. And I was still learning from her even on the last week of her death. She was always teaching you something new. And I hope to be able to do that for our campers and the people I train as well.
Oh gosh, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just so speechless whenever it comes to Diana, because she was such a force.
She was a force.
She was a force. And for those of you who don't know who Diana King is, please research her, okay? Because she laid the groundwork for a lot of what we're doing today was Diana King, okay? Now my last question for you. If you were to go back to younger Susie, right? During that time when maybe you were struggling in school, what advice would you give her?
Well, I think just continue to push through. I think that it's too easy for people to give up on themselves or turn their back on something that's challenging or difficult. But when you face something face on, you generally realize that you're strong enough to do that and that you have the power to overcome whatever your adversity might be.
Oof. Say no more. I'm in. Thank you for just getting vulnerable for a minute.
Yeah.
We're launching a huge campaign in the next few weeks. I'm so excited to share it with everyone. I don't think I've talked about it yet. So this is a debut, I guess. We're launching a campaign called Dear Younger Self. And I'm going to let the audience watch the video. We're going to premiere it, but it's going to be an opportunity for people to talk to the younger version of themselves. Because when that advice they're giving to the younger version of themselves, they're giving to someone right now. So it's like it's a self-love meets giving back to the community and giving some advice to some of those who are going through what you've been through,
Yeah.
So.
And be open-minded,
Yeah. Open-minded. Yes, 100%. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Guys, on Monday night, I'm bringing on LeDerek Horn. Do you know LeDerek, Susan?
I do. He's an incredible poet.
LeDerek Horn is an incredible human being. He's a poet and an advocate in the learning disability space. He's spoken in some of the most prominent arenas.
He's eloquent.
He's eloquent. He's a gentleman. He's just awesome. So I'm excited to introduce you to him on Monday night at 8:00 Eastern. We're going to have some fun. But Susie, thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to having you interact with our campers.
Oh, I'm so excited to come to the camp. I know last year we were going to do it, but COVID,
Right. So now we can do it again this year.
Now we could do it again for real. But thank you again for joining, everyone. Have a great rest of your day or evening or morning.
Thank you, Jake.
Bye, everybody.